to Myrna and Jenn Read the Apocrypha. We are in an interesting place, but first let's share something about ourselves. What I want to have us share today, and Jenn, you can start, is what is our favorite thing to do in our downtime?
Oh, that one's tough. In downtime, my favorite thing to probably do is watch TV. I'm a TV watcher. I was born and raised in the late 70s. My teens were in the late 80s. It was TV time. So
Yeah.
I'm partial. Plus, I really like good writing. And
Mm.
so I like to watch and get involved in fake family people lives.
All right. On my downtime, I kind of like to
Mhm.
combine things. Um,
Okay.
I do Legos for my arthritis in my hands, and so
Yep.
I love to put a Lego together while I'm watching TV.
Mhm.
And I like to watch like Hallmark shows or mysteries. And I know that's
Okay.
really weird to think that I
Mhm.
like that, but I do. Those are my favorite. So
Okay.
downtime is Legos and movie, and so that's my favorite thing to do. So
Well, I like that combo. That I actually will puzzle a lot of times while I'm watching TV shows, especially if I'm watching an old TV series because with all the streaming services, you can do that. One that
Mhm.
I already saw in its original run, and I'm just nostalgic or just wanting to review it again, I'll puzzle while I'm doing it.
Right, yeah, yeah, yeah.
It can be a combo activity. In fact, a lot of my family doesn't know why or how I can do that because they have to sit and pay attention to the whole thing. I'm like, "I'm listening. I hear it. I saw it all the first time. I'm good."
Yeah, that's easy to do, yeah, when you have already seen it. I
Mhm.
I like to I'll listen, but with Legos, you don't have to, like, pay all the way attention. I can kind of be putting stuff together and watching at the same time. So
Mm.
it's kind of well, because it's like you take this piece
I love
and you're gonna put
everyone.
this piece and you just go like this. You just put it together while you're watching the show, right?
While you're
This piece,
yeah,
boom.
pretty
This
much.
piece, this piece, boom.
You're just reading engineering schematics, putting your big Lego set together. It's fine.
It's
It's
good.
fine.
I
It's
can do both of them. I can.
good.
And then there's
I
always
like it.
rewind if I miss something important. So,
Well, and see, that's not okay. Let's just say didn't have that opportunity the first go round.
right?
There was no
Absolutely.
stopping. You had to be there at 7 o'clock to watch that show, or you didn't
Yep.
have it.
Yep. Yep.
You
You
didn't
had to
have the
be right there.
info the
Then
next day. Hmm.
correct. So
So
yeah. So there you go. We love to watch
have
TV and
fun.
do something else at the same time. So we're
Hmm.
multitaskers. Um, I don't know how well we
We
do it, but we do it. Okay, let's get on with the Apocrypha.
that's
Okay, we
funny.
are in the Book of Jubilees, obviously. We are
Hmm.
in chapter 3. Right now, we're kind of in the middle of discussing God's making of the world. And we talked extensively about the Sabbath day.
Hmm.
And we're continuing to talk a little bit about that. I've not read ahead, so I cannot really tell you. I was so busy, I did not get a chance to read it. But that's why we're reading together. So,
Well, I it's funny because I was looking ahead here and it feels like we go a little backwards ish here because we go back to Adam and Eve and Eve kind of being created and all of that,
right.
which
Oh,
I
yeah.
thought was interesting. All right, you tell us all this other stuff and we got really into like um these ideas here and now we're kind of hitting back them a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that in the Apocryphal, I think we're sometimes we're going to we're going to
Yeah.
come back to the story. I think a lot of it is
Telling. Retell.
repeated, right?
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
It from someone else's viewpoint, I think, and that I think that might give us uh what is that? That might give us a more full view of
Mhm.
what transpired, right?
Right. Well, isn't
Okay.
that like in a court case, right? Everyone tells their version of it, and you just get a bigger and fuller picture.
Yeah,
So let's go.
let's do it. Okay. Let's read 3 verses at a time.
Cool.
So you go ahead and start, my friend.
Okay, I'll start it off. And on the 6 days of the second week, we brought, according to the word of God, unto Adam all the beasts, and all the cattle, and all the birds, and everything that moves on the earth, and everything that moves in the water, according to their kinds, and according to their types. The beasts on the first day, the cattle on the second day, the birds on the third day, and all that which moves on the earth on the fourth day, and that which moves in the water on the fifth day. And Adam named them all by their respective names, and as he called them, so was their name. And on these 5 days Adam saw all these, male and female, according to every kind that was on the earth, but he was alone and found no help meet for him.
Okay, so we kind of just reviewed what we
Mm-hmm.
read, right? That he went through all of these every single day,
Mm-hmm.
um, and then Adam realizes he's all alone.
Yeah, because every
Everybody
single
else,
creature, everyone had someone.
Ellen had a partner, right? Had someone
Mm-hmm.
to swim through the water with, or to walk across the land with, right?
Yep.
Um, so let's go on. And the Lord said unto us, it is not good that man should be alone. Let us make a helpmate for him. And the Lord our God caused a deep sleep to fall upon him, and he slept. And I'm assuming that's Adam.
Yep.
And he took for the woman one rib from amongst his ribs, and this rib was the origin of the woman from amongst his ribs. And he built up the flesh in its stead and built the woman. And he awakened Adam out of his sleep, and on awakening, he arose on the 6th day, and he brought her to him. And he knew her, and said unto her, this is now bone of my bones, and flesh of my flesh. And she shall be called my wife, because she was taken from her husband. All right.
Interesting wording there.
Yeah.
Because she was taken from her husband, that she would be called wife.
Yeah. That's interesting that they had a definition of a word like that, right?
Mhm. I will
All right.
say, this word "help me" is forever gonna be talked about in the Bible and in
Yeah.
scripture, that translation, because so many people like to say that that means that the woman is subservient to her husband. Um, when in reality, that word in Hebrew, I think is Ezer, and
Ezra. Mm-hmm.
Ezer, and it actually means like a strength, and kind of this positive connotation of it, that it's a strength for Adam, not just not some servant to him.
Yeah.
I just need to get that out there.
Um, I'm looking at I guess it's another definition, and it says it's a helper suited to, or worthy of, or corresponding to him.
Mhm.
So to me, that doesn't sound subservient.
No, it's an actual person who is working with you. It's together. It's like the greatest form of togetherness.
Yeah, it's like um I don't like the word equal to, right? But
No.
uh because the world has changed that so much.
Mhm.
But you're on even footing, right? You're
Mhm.
both doing the work, right?
Mhm.
And it seems that when it says that they're when it says suited to or worthy of
Mhm.
or score corresponding to him, that doesn't sound like he's telling her everything she has to do, right? Is that they're equally working, I think, and that's what it sounds like to me. But
That's
then
what it
I don't
sounds
know.
like to me as well. And I would think
Yeah.
from an LDS perspective, you that seems more understood. Though
Yeah,
some
that's
people
kind
don't
of our
interpret it that way, but that's the way we talk about man and wife.
yeah. That's the way it should be according to what
Mhm.
we have been told. It's not
Correct.
always that way because
No.
sometimes you've got women that think they're better than their husband, and you've got husbands that think that their wife should be
Mm,
subservient to them.
yep, it's
And
true.
that's not because that's what God wants. That's because these individual people feel that it should be that way. I
Correct.
don't see anywhere where in the scriptures I've never found anywhere where God has said that the woman is lesser
Nope.
than.
He has
So
not.
I mean, women have different things that they have to do,
Mhm.
but that doesn't make them lesser than. So
Correct. And
okay,
everyone should like to say, and Eve was his final creation
yeah,
when it
yeah.
comes to
I mean,
God.
in other words, I think that he kept trying and trying, and I think when he hit woman, and I'm just saying, it seems like uh, he stopped because he'd reached perfection, right?
I'm not going to argue
I mean,
there. It is what it is. You
he
can
didn't.
read it your own way.
He didn't say, "Oh, I goofed on that one. Let me try another
Oh,
one." Right?
I'm so
He was
sorry,
like,
Adam.
he was like,
No.
"Here you go. You got it."
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
okay, I have to go here, and I'm going
Mhm.
to.
Okay,
I
do
know
it.
that there's been a lot of chatter, brr, 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 women that feel this way, feel that the church
Uh-huh.
says that they're lesser than,
Yep.
because in the temple, in a part, we cover our eyes,
Mm.
our face with the veil on
Mhm.
our head.
Mhm.
Now, they don't do it anymore. And some people all rejoice and said, this is, women's liberation, right? Um, and
Women's temple liberation.
I know, that's what they said. Really, they did.
All right.
Um,
All right.
I thought, and I'm one of your biggest women's lib to a point. I still
Mhm.
think that there's some respect that I think women deserve, and it's not because I'm a woman more than men, because they
Mhm.
do go to the brink of death to bring children into the world. I'm just saying. I think
Mhm.
there's a respect that they should have that's a little bit more than the men. Just saying. Anyway,
Mhm.
um, I felt bad they did that. I didn't like it. Don't tell me wrong. Don't get me wrong, because I always felt like
Mhm.
I was suffocating, right?
Yeah, we all
But
felt that.
I felt bad because I think that is a form of our showing um, respect to our Heavenly Father and it's like when we get married, there is a point where you take the veil off of your face when you get married,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Um, and it's kind of a way of showing your beauty to your husband for the first time after you are wed. And I think that is a beautiful thing. And I feel bad it was taken out, not because I liked it, but because I think it was a form of their afterwards showing the beauty of women to those men afterwards, and that's just me. I'm just sharing. Anyway, so for me, it wasn't
Hey.
like a yay. I mean, I don't like it, and it wasn't like my favorite thing to do, but I think
Mhm.
that they took it to the wrong place. I think they weren't looking at it in a way that I was looking at it, and so
Interesting.
um, anyway, so
Okay.
yeah, there was some women's liberation happening, but um, anyway, there you go. So let's move on because
Hey,
I
we'll
opened up a can of worms.
and that's fine. Please comment below. And
Yeah.
do you agree with Myrna? Was it something that bothered you when they changed that? If you're a member of Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, um, did you find new meaning in them taking that out? Like, I'm curious. Okay,
Okay.
so we come back here. 7. Therefore shall man and wife be one, and therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother and cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. In the first week was Adam created, and the rib, his wife, in the second week. He showed okay, sorry, I'm going to try that one again. In the first week was Adam created, and the rib, his wife, in the second week. He showed her unto him. And for this reason, the commandment was given to keep in their defilement for a male 7 days and for a female twice 7 days. And after Adam had completed 40 days in the land where he had been created, we brought him into the Garden of Eden to till and keep it. But his wife they brought in on the 8th day, and after this she entered into the Garden of Eden.
All right. I don't
Okay.
understand most of that, but there we go. What do you think it means by their
Keep in the.
defilement?
Ah, I'm not sure if I know it. It's the action of defiling, and of course, defiling is to spoil or desecrate, violate.
Okay,
Oh,
so
archaically defile is, of course, violate the chastity of a woman.
okay, so are they saying further when I kind of wondered if that's what it said. Further on it
Mm-hmm.
said that he knew her.
I know.
Biblically to know there
Biblically,
means
to know
sex.
her. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm gonna say the
I
word
thought that
sex.
one too. I thought that
And
one
I thought
too.
that, but then I thought, oh wait, just hang on.
Is it? I know. Is it really saying that? But maybe
Right.
it is.
So maybe it is, and they needed to repent for having had relations before marriage.
Oh.
Because we haven't heard that they got married. Why else would it be a defilement?
Well, 7 days.
And
Right.
maybe we'll find out as we read further, but maybe that is what it is.
Um. Well, maybe so because it says here he showed her unto him, and for this reason the commandment was given to keep uh in their defilement for a male 7 days and for a female twice 7 days. And after having completed 40 days in the land, we brought him into the Garden of Eden. So, this is where I'm gonna say I can see some people reading through this because we've brought up that concept
Mm-hmm.
of Lilith before that
Mm-hmm.
is in the tradition that, oh no, he had a wife before that was Lilith, and then oh, he got Eve, and she was pure and chaste, and all of that happened afterwards. But that Lilith is this seductress, succubus kind of person. And I mean, the way this is reading right here kind of sounds like, oops, yeah, we didn't know, and I knew her, and because of that, a commandment was given, and he got in trouble for 7 days, and for her, it was 14 days.
Okay, if you go back to you know how like in the scriptures, at least in ours,
Mm-hmm.
right after the the chapter number or whatever.
Yes.
It's like a
Mhm.
little synopsis. If
Uh-huh.
you go up to this little synopsis, it says
Yep.
part of it says creation of Eve and enactment of Levitical laws of
Laws.
purification.
Mm. Okay.
Okay, so I don't know where you're putting Lilith in here. I mean, I know what you're saying, what you're that
Well,
you
no,
shared the story of Lilith,
I'm
but I don't see her in here yet.
I don't see her, but I can understand as they're starting to talk about this how that idea of her might have gotten created because they wanted to keep Eve pure and
Okay.
chaste and all good things. So, I mean, I can see somewhat where that idea of Lilith could come in. Um if this is the case that we're reading, but Levitical laws of purification, um the Levitical laws, they had so many laws to even deal with being
Mhm.
together.
Well,
And
they even had laws of if you
mhm,
birth a male, you have to be in purification for so long. If you birth a
yes.
female, you have to
Mhm.
be in purification for
Mm,
so long. So,
mhm.
um, this is kind of what we're learning that enactment of what those laws where they got those laws from.
Yes. Mhm.
And it's from this book of Jubilees, and it's probably other places too.
Mhm.
But this is where they got those laws. And so that's interesting. So that that totally I don't know. I think we need to read on before we make some more judgments.
Yeah, but it's just interesting that Adam there was a waiting period and Adam got brought in to the Garden of Eden and she was brought into the garden.
Yeah, so did this defilement
Mhm.
happen before they were in the Garden of Eden?
That's what it's
So
sounding like here.
where were they before they were in the Garden of Eden? I just always assumed that everything we read about in Moses
Happened
happened
in the
in the
garden.
garden.
Yeah.
Okay, so it
Mhm.
sounds like um,
Mhm.
it didn't. But let's read on and see some more information. Maybe we'll glean some more
Mhm.
information to kind of
Okay.
understand this little part here.
Yep. Okay.
So we're on 10.
10. Yep.
And for this reason, the commandment is written on the heavenly tablets in regard to her, according to the first week of days, and 30 and 3
Wait,
days.
nope. Nope.
Oh, I skipped the whole thing.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Let's start all over, guys. All right. I do know how to read, but got a little excited to read ahead.
I know.
So I skipped a whole sentence that as I'm
A
reading it,
whole a
it means
lot.
a whole lot more.
Yeah.
So let me go to the beginning again.
Rewind back. Okay,
Okay.
Myrna, do you want to read verse 10?
Yes, let's do it. And for this reason, the commandment is written on the heavenly tablets in regard to her that gives birth. If she bears a male, she shall remain in her uncleanness 7 days, according to the first week of days, and 30 and 3 days shall she remain in the blood of her purifying. And she shall not touch any hallowed thing, nor enter into the sanctuary until she accomplishes these days, which are enjoined in the casing of a male child. But in the case of a female child, she shall remain in her uncleanliness 2 weeks of days, according to the first 2 weeks, and 66 days in the blood of her purification, and they will be in all 80 days. And when she had completed these 80 days, we brought her into the Garden of Eden, for it is holier than all the earth, because besides, and every tree that is planted in it is holy. Hold on.
New information. Go ahead.
So is this just that they're setting down the law
Mhm.
if this happens, or did she have a child? I'm I'm a little
It sounds like
confused.
it sounds like they're laying down the law if for when this happens, when in regard to her when she gives birth.
Okay, but it says that all of it will be 80 days. And if you notice up in verse 9, she was brought into the garden after 80 days.
Brought in on the 8th day, but I think they're meaning just like it said there. Yeah, 80.
No, it's the 80th. Read it, 80th.
Oh, 80th. It is correct. Sorry. I misread that. It is the 80th. Yeah, so she was brought in. It
Okay,
so her first child. So are you
I
suggesting it might be saying that she had a child and it was a girl?
I don't know.
Interesting.
I am confused. I'll be totally honest. I am confused. But I did surmise from what we read,
Uh-huh.
okay, that if she has a male child, she has to stay in
Oh.
purification for
Mhm.
33 days. If she
Mhm.
has a female child, she has to stay in purification for 80 days.
Mhm.
And I realized she was brought into the garden on the 80th day.
Yes.
Okay, so but they've never said anything about a child yet. Okay, so I
No,
don't
they
want to
have not.
impose. I don't want
No.
to impose anything on it yet. I think we need to put
Yep.
brakes on that, Myrna,
But
and
it
let's
seems
read
suggestive.
further. It
Mhm.
does, but maybe they are just laying down the law. Maybe they are just laying
Mhm.
it down, and we will learn more as we continue on. Um, and let's do that
Well,
because I don't want to impose anything. I'm not leaving it.
well,
I'm not
and
saying it's not totally possible because he did know
correct.
her, right?
Yes.
As
Mhm.
and I'm assuming that's the biblical
Little
full
term.
name.
Mhm. He knew her.
So yeah,
Well, and the interesting thing here is that when you read in the Bible about uncleanliness, for women, that had to do even sometimes with them having their period. They were considered unclean. Um, and they would have to do purification things and
yeah.
make
Hmm.
sure that they were not bleeding anymore and um all of that. And so
Well, after
getting
you
this
have had a
idea,
child, you do
yeah,
bleed
I
for longer than a
you do.
normal
You
period,
do.
so to speak, right? So I
That
get it.
I could get that part. The interesting thing here too is that it's saying that she wasn't let into the Garden of Eden until she was completely purified or clean because the Garden of Eden was holy.
Yes,
It almost has that feeling of like the Garden of Eden being a temple.
absolutely, absolutely.
So
Um,
that is interesting to me because I've never maybe put that word onto the Garden of Eden that it was like a temple.
I haven't
Um,
either, but I hadn't heard
so
any of this stuff before.
yeah,
So
no, neither have I.
this is new stuff for
So this
me.
is new
But
stuff.
I'm not saying that they did have a child. Okay, I'm
Correct.
simply saying if you were to read this, this is what you would surmise. I think
Think.
if you
Mhm.
stopped right here.
Yes, you would. You would.
If you said that's way too much, I'm done, and you stopped
Then
reading,
then
that
I
might be what
understand,
you surmised from it.
and
Okay,
I would
but
understand maybe
let's go
why.
on,
We will. We're
and
gonna barrel ahead.
maybe we will change that thinking. Okay,
Okay.
maybe it is
So,
simply explaining what the
mhm.
laws are. Maybe that is
Yeah.
what it is. And
Okay.
it was more the 80 days was because she needed to be totally purified to go to the temple,
Mhm.
so to speak, the Garden
Yeah.
of Eden. So maybe
Okay.
that is. So let's yeah,
Let's see.
let's onward.
Therefore, there was ordained regarding her who bears a male or a female child the statute of those days that she should touch no hallowed thing, nor enter into the sanctuary until these days for the male or female child are accomplished. This is the law and testimony which was written down for Israel in order that they should observe it all the days. And in the first week of the first Jubilee, Adam and his wife were in the Garden of Eden for 7 years, tilling and keeping it. And we gave him work and we instructed him to do everything that is suitable for tillage.
Okay, wait, you didn't read something that I think actually is important. It said in the first
So,
week of the first Jubilees, and in
Lee
parentheses, it says 1 to
says
7
one.
a.m.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Okay, I read it. Let me see if I can find it again.
First,
It doesn't mean hours like we have in the
yeah.
a.m. Mm, I read it one time and now I cannot remember exactly what it was that it said. Oh, Anno Mundo, which means anti-meridium.
Mm-hmm.
So it says before midday. Anti-meridium means before midday.
Okay.
So I
So,
guess it is hours, 1 to 7 in the morning.
and in the first
Before
week
midday.
of the first Jubilee, Adam and his wife were in the Garden of Eden for 7 years, tilling and keeping it. So it must be some markage of time there for them.
Yeah.
But so it does seem that she is being given the information that as a
May-
woman, there are other statutes that she has to keep.
Maybe that is God's time.
Maybe it is God's
1 to
time
7 a.m., 1 to 7 before midday for
for
one
him.
day for him. Maybe that's what that is.
Maybe that is what that is.
Okay, yeah. So this is it's sounding more like they're actually just telling you what the law is,
Law
maybe
is.
not that
Mhm.
that is what happened to her.
But this is the first time I've seen anything that says how long they were in the garden tilling and keeping it.
Yeah.
For 7 years, tilling and keeping it.
And I like this. He says, and we gave him work, and we
Yeah.
instructed him to do everything that is suitable for tillage. Now, you remember when we were reading the life of Adam and Eve,
Yes.
they were out of the garden for 7 days before they decided to find food because they got hungry because they
Yes.
weren't fed. It
Mhm.
sounds like in the Garden of Eden, they were told everything to do.
Well, yeah, I mean, okay, this is one of my biggest complaints in people who are evolutionists, okay? Big Bang Theory, everything kind of sparked, evolution happened, all of that, okay? I'm not fully saying that things didn't evolve. All right, I'm not gonna maybe go that far, but I believe the biblical story of Adam and Eve.
Yeah, you're a
And
creationist,
I, I'm a,
all out.
I am a creationist through and through. Okay, that is who I am. And when you look at all the information about mankind developing, and he's a hunter gatherer, and then eventually they start to till the ground and all that, I go, where did they get that knowledge? Where did that knowledge, that huge leap, come from besides picking berries to eat? Where did tilling the ground, planting a seed, and having it grow, where did that knowledge or idea come from? Birds don't just plant seeds. You don't see squirrels planting acorns. You don't see that actual process if you're just sitting around in nature and looking. You don't look at that and go, oh, look, there's a seed inside that strawberry. You,
Yeah.
you just, you don't. And so this is why I love this spot here. Adam in the Garden of Eden was taught how to till the ground. It came from God.
That is why I really love Cleon Skousen's book, The First 2,000 Years,
Yeah.
because that is what he talks about, that God taught them how to do all of these things. Even when they were kicked out of the garden, Adam met with God and he taught them all these things.
Yeah.
So he was very evolved.
Yes.
Not this caveman thing that everybody talks about.
Right.
Okay. He was evolved, and somehow all of that was lost.
Yeah.
Okay. But he learned, he knew everything about the stars. He knew all of these things that he was taught by God and men from God that came from God to teach him. Okay. So he wasn't this caveman hanging around. And so somehow this knowledge got lost, and we're slowly relearning about the stars, understanding, because they don't understand how they built the pyramids, where one part of the pyramids is the lights come through at a certain time of year and light up the hole that they have going from the top to the bottom of the pyramids in Mexico area and southern America down there. And so they're just barely learning that these were for a reason. And these people knew how the lights came and so they knew about the stars. And so this knowledge has lost, and we're just beginning to relearn all of this. We think we're the smartest people in the world, but actually we're just relearning stuff that got lost, to be quite honest. If you read that book, it is amazing. Yeah. And what he got it from is just the stuff that is inside of temples and all of the things that you see and read and understand that are carved inside all of the different kind of temples that Cleon Skousen went to. And so this is telling us the exact same thing, that he was taught by men of God or God himself.
And he worked at it for a while.
Yeah.
Before they exited the garden. So I love that.
Yes. I love that he wasn't left alone, just like we're not left alone. He wasn't left alone.
Yep.
All right, let's move on. And he tilled the garden and was naked and knew it not, and was not ashamed. And he protected the garden from the birds and the beasts and cattle, and gathered its fruit and ate, and put aside the residue for himself and for his wife, and put aside that which was being kept. And after the completion of the 7 years, which he had completed there, 7 years, exactly 8 a.m., and in the second month, on the 7th day of the month, the serpent came. 17th day. I'm having a hard time reading. I really apologize.
Numbers for us today are not going well.
Yeah, on the 17th, well, it never goes well for me. I don't. Math is not my friend. Okay. On the 17th day of the month, the serpent came and approached the woman, and the serpent said to the woman, "Hath God commanded you, saying, you shall not eat of every tree of the garden?" And she said to it, "Of all the fruit of the trees of the garden, God hath said unto me, eat. But of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God hath said unto me, ye shall not eat thereof, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die."
Okay.
Okay, so now starts the story we know of.
Yes. That they were tilling the garden and they were eating the fruit of the garden. And they protected the garden. I like this, from the birds and the beasts and cattle. So back. And instead, here they have all that they need. And now, after 7 years of being together and naked and not realizing what naked was, the serpent comes and he talks to Eve. This is interesting here because in the most of the accounts we have, he goes to Adam first.
Yeah.
But here the serpent just goes to the woman. So you don't get that interaction with Adam that I'm used to.
Yeah. Yeah.
where he's like, "No, not going to happen." And she's like, "Oh, let me talk to the serpent." Interesting.
Uh, no, the serpent goes to find her. She doesn't
Sorry.
ask to talk to the
I
serpent.
No, sorry, I misspoke. Yes, the
Okay.
serpent
You
comes to
confused me for
her.
a minute.
Sorry,
I was like, okay, I know you did a lot of things that weren't right, but she
I
didn't ask to talk to the
misspoke.
serpent.
I misspoke. Yes, he
It's okay.
comes to talk to her
I'm just a little
after
confused. I was
being
like,
refused by
oh,
Adam. He's
yeah.
trying to find a chink in the system here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
19.
20, 19.
No, 19.
No, sorry, I
19.
meant 19. And the serpent said unto the woman, Ye shall not surely die. For God doth know that on the day ye shall eat thereof, your eyes will be opened, and ye will be as gods, and ye will know good and evil. And the woman saw the tree that it was agreeable and pleasant to the eye, and that its fruit was good for food, and she took thereof and eat. And when she had first covered her shame, and when she had first covered her shame with fig leaves, she gave thereof to Adam, and he eat. And his eyes were open, and he saw that he was naked. So, this is like an interesting pared down version of it. Um, but you get the wording here of the serpent. And we kind of talked
Mm-hmm.
about it before, this idea of not surely die.
Yeah.
Um, and I think a lot of times when I read this part of this story, I'm always so interested in the serpent's half truths.
Yeah.
In the half truths and what was real, what was the truth, and what was the little part that he changed, because God told them that they would die if they partook. And he's
Right.
like, "Well, you're not going to surely die,
Yeah.
because you're going to be given the opportunity to come back." But it's an opportunity. And he's like, "Great, give people an opportunity and all of their generations after them, because I'm going to then get to have my turn to try and keep them from being with God."
Yeah.
And my revenge, almost, because it feels vengeful, his vengeance is, you're not going to get all your kids back.
Yeah.
And so it is true though that because they ate, their eyes were opened and they could become as gods. And they understood and began to know more about good and evil,
Yeah. And
which is
it shows
ironic
because
that
she puts a fig leaf on.
correct. Mhm. It's
Mm-hmm.
very understood in that moment. I am naked and I need to cover this shame that I am naked.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
But she did immediately know good and evil.
Yeah. Okay, so Adam eats, and then he took fig leaves and sewed them together and made an apron for himself and covered his shame. See, Eve didn't do it for him, he did it himself.
Yes.
Like, she's not his servant.
No,
And
she is
God
not.
and God cursed the serpent and was wrath with it forever. And he was
Wroth.
wrath
Mhm.
with the woman, because she hearkened to the voice of the serpent and did eat. And he said unto her, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy pains. In sorrow thou shalt bring forth children, and thy return shall be unto thy husband, and he will rule over thee.
See? That's the
Yeah,
statement that irks every woman when
yeah,
they hear some version of that. But in this
yeah,
instance, it's saying that happened because Eve was the first to partake.
right. Yeah. Um, we're not getting a lot of the information we have in our scriptures.
Correct. A lot is missing here compared to our
Yeah,
versions in
because
Moses and stuff.
says she gives it to him and he eats. Well, there was a whole discussion on why he chose to
Yeah.
eat,
Mm-hmm.
right? A whole
Mm-hmm.
discussion on what they were actually told about
Yep.
eating and not eating, and what they were asked to do, and multiply and replenish the earth, and all of those kind of things that we're not getting in this. So there is a lot of background, and that's what I like. That's what I think is really important, is that I think with a lot of this Apocrypha,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to see things overlaying, and I
Yes.
think that will help us to have a full picture of
Mm-hmm.
possibly, because we
Mm-hmm.
don't know how much is true,
Correct.
possibly what the real story happens to be.
Mm-hmm. I
Right.
agreed, and I just want to say I think it's interesting because the first thing that God is really saying is a consequence for her eating is it is that she will have a lot of pain and sorrow in how she brings forth children. It will
Mhm.
hurt, all of that.
Mhm.
As a woman, and that being a a role, a reason, a design for my creation as a woman. If everything is built right, I should be able to bear children. And it's one of the jobs to have children. I'm
Mhm.
fulfilling my God-given role.
Right.
So I think it's interesting that in that being her God-given role, being a woman, her punishment per se, if I guess I'm terming it punishment, but for her action is you're going to feel pain here. So it'll be interesting here. Does Adam have something happen to him because of his role? Let's find out.
Yeah. I Okay.
Does that
Let's
make
find out first
sense? Does
before
that make
I make
sense?
a comment.
Before you make a comment? Okay.
Yep. Let's go on.
Um, and to Adam also he said, because thou hast hearkened unto the voice of thy wife, and hast eaten of the tree of which I commanded thee that thou shouldst not eat thereof, cursed be the ground for thy sake. Thorns and thistles shall it bring forth to thee, and thou shalt eat thy bread in the sweat of thy face, till thou returnest to the earth from whence thou wast taken. For earth thou art, and unto earth shalt thou return. And he made for them coats of skin, and clothed them, and sent them forth from the Garden of Eden. Um,
One more.
And on that day on which Adam went forth from the garden, he offered as a sweet savor an offering, frankincense, galbanum, and stacte, and spices in the morning with the rising of the sun from the day when he covered his shame. So, according to this, because Adam ate, his role of being a provider for his family got cursed as well. It wasn't going to be easy. He was going to have to work hard for that provision, being a provider. I just find that interesting. I never looked at it that way before.
Yeah. I find it interesting. My brain
Mhm.
goes to this space.
Mhm.
Um, what of those women who cannot bear
Mm.
children?
Yeah, I know.
Um, and those that have a hard time even getting to that space.
Mhm.
Um, I know I went through this in thinking that that was an additional punishment to me. Not only the punishment that I received from Eve, that
Mhm.
bearing children would be hard and painful, and you kind of go to the brink of death to make it happen.
Mhm.
Um, but God helps you to survive through that. But that because I couldn't or was having a hard time doing so, I mean, because of medical intervention, I couldn't do it myself. It was medical intervention that helped me be able to have one child out of the 7 or 8 times I was pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to think that that was an additional punishment that God gave me because of something I had done.
Really?
But I came to realize that that is another thing that's part of just the fallen world.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, those things are not actually punishments.
Mm-mm.
Because I think the more I've looked at and the more I learned about the medical field, having gone and been an EMT and stuff, before I retired at that, was that a child to come out of being born, a child to come out with all 4 limbs
Mm-hmm.
and with 5 digits on each of those limbs,
Mm-hmm.
and to have everything at least looking normal
Eyes,
actually is
ears,
the
mouth, and nose.
miracle. Is
Yes.
actually the miracle.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That is as much a miracle as anything else. Because
Yes.
really, if you think about it and learn about it, the cells have to divide at a certain time, things have to happen at a certain time, boom, 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 boom. And so those that come out with deformities, so to speak, in any form, whether they're emotional, medical, even physical, that you can see, those are the norm. The ones that come out looking at least perfect or normal, those are the miracles.
Yes.
Because everything has to happen. So it's such a timing, blah, 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 blah. And so that was a real eye-opening and testimony to me, and helped me to be able to not think of that as being a punishment anymore, but possibly being an effect of my gestation and what might have happened at a wrong time or wrong thing, along with the fact that my mom actually had German measles while she was pregnant with me. And so there could have possibly been, even physical deformities that I could have had.
Right.
And so I think I've learned that those kind of things, when you're facing not being able to have a child of being a woman and you want one, that's not actually a punishment. It's actually just an effect of being in a fallen world.
Yep.
And we need to look at it that way more so than it being unfair or that God did something to me, right? Which is where I went to first. And I know a lot of people that had some of the same problems I had. That was the first place they went. This is a punishment from God. God did this to me.
Right? I think it's just easy to think, oh, there's something wrong with me. God doesn't want me to have children. I've done something. And I agree. It's understanding that this is a fallen world. Things don't go completely right. And that will just happen sometimes.
Yeah. I mean,
And
it's
so
very
every
painful.
baby, completely painful for women in that state.
Yeah. And so when we say that this is a punishment from God, that bearing children is very painful, that is our punishment. Not being able to have children is kind of, I think, an extension of that. If that happens to you, it's not that it's a punishment of anything that you've done or anything other than the fact that this is a fallen world. I mean, there's people that actually die in childbirth.
Yes.
And so there's a lot that has to go there. You have to find a space where you can say, that it's not me, right? And that's hard
Mhm.
to do. It is really hard to do. But I don't want women to say, well, what about me? Why did I not um,
Mhm.
have that experience, right?
Mhm.
Because I don't think this is the only definition of a woman. I
No.
don't think it's God's only definition of his creation, woman. And I think he knew that it takes all of this perfect division,
Mhm.
perfect things happening, that there were going to be some of his daughters that were going to be in pain.
Mhm.
Um, but he had to deal with Eve, right?
Mhm.
He had
Mhm.
to deal with Eve. It's just like when you have a child, you have to deal with your child,
Mhm.
how it is best for that child. And yes, this punishment is something that extends to the generations after, but that's
Mhm.
also because they were starting everything. Look, they were learning the laws of purification,
Yep.
right? And they were learning other things that were going to, they were starting everything, and we are recipients of all of that
All
that
of it.
happened,
Mhm.
right? And not that it was, I love that our church believes that um, we take care of our own sins and not Adam's
Mhm.
transgression,
Correct.
right? And and that makes it easy when I have a hard time thinking of punishing people for something that Adam and Eve did, right?
Right.
It's really, really
Mhm.
hard for me. And so I love that we believe that that's not
Uh,
the original
yeah.
sin is not ours. It's not ours to
Correct.
carry. It's not ours to be responsible for. But I just wanted to share that that is a hard space sometimes to be in.
Oh, completely, Myrna, is completely a hard space, and I know many women who've have struggled with that.
Hmm.
The part for me in reading this is it seems that society these days doesn't even want to say that because I was born a woman and my husband was born a man, that there aren't roles that are associated with that.
Right.
And that to me is being reiterated here
Yeah. Hmm.
quite boldly, that the consequence fits something that uh is role centric.
Yeah.
Adam, you're going to be the provider, and there's a consequence for your action. Eve, you're going to be bearing children, and here's your consequence. And I'm I'm always a little bit on a soapbox to say it's okay to talk about roles and that
Hmm.
people have roles and that
Absolutely.
it was designed by God because people are trying to eliminate them.
Right. Well, that's because
Eliminate.
he's got a house of order.
Yes. Mhm.
His house is an
So,
order, a house of order.
yes. So,
And that doesn't mean that you can't pivot and change if you're found in a different situation. If your husband passes
correct.
away, that doesn't mean that it's not
Are
okay for
like
you to go out into the working world, right?
100%. Or if
Um,
you're single or any of those other things.
yeah,
Like, come on,
it's
people.
okay because you have to pivot when this
Yes.
fallen world throws something your way.
You have to pivot.
You have to. Um,
Hmm?
so I
But
think,
but I think you can hold those at the same time. There are designed roles and there's I have to live this life and I have to pivot sometimes. I think you can hold both of those ideas at the same time without negating anything about the other. And I guess that's
absolutely.
something else in society that is being lost right now, is that you're not being able to hold those two truths at the same time. Only one of them can be held. And I say, phooey,
Well,
hold them
absolutely.
both. Hold
Yeah,
them both.
you can. You absolutely can. It's not a there's not a problem in that at all. The world just Well, I think the world gets confused of that word helpmate,
Yes. Yep.
right? It's that,
Mhm.
if you get to go out into the working world, why can't I go out in the working world? Well, who's going to take care of the kids?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
It shouldn't be daycare's responsibility to take care of your children,
No. And we're
right?
saying that right here.
And,
It shouldn't.
and so, but I understand the world has changed. It's
Yeah.
very expensive to live.
Yeah.
And sometimes it is hard to make enough money for one person to make enough money.
Yeah.
So I'm
Mhm.
not saying live in poverty. That's not what I'm saying.
No. Mm-mm.
But you need to think about the children. Sometimes, as seeing some of these children coming and going from school,
Mhm.
some of them really are not being taken care of. They are fending for themselves,
Mhm.
and they need to be taken care of.
Mhm.
And they're expecting the schools to take care of them so that the parents can be at work later and later.
Mhm.
And they go to daycare so the parents can be at work later and later.
Mhm.
I think you really need to work with God to find out how you can make your family work that works in his sight.
And
And
that's the key.
he's not a strict little guy that says you can only be right here. You can only be right here.
Correct.
He
Mhm.
understands our world has changed. He understands. But he also doesn't want us to become part of the world.
Mhm.
He still wants us to be part of his people,
Yep.
not part of the world. So
Mm.
sometimes we have to make choices that think about our children rather than think about how much stuff we can buy. And I'm as guilty as others about it. Don't get me wrong.
Yep. Mhm.
We all get caught up in this world and into this economy and into wanting to be like the Joneses next door. We
Mhm.
all get caught up into it. But hopefully, every once in a while, we can be humble, kneel down with our spouse or alone if we don't have a spouse, and talk to Heavenly Father on how to make this work, what is best for the children. Because we're adults, we should be able to handle whatever. But the
Mhm.
children need to be taken care of. That's my soapbox, and I'm off of it. Um,
Okay. I like your
so,
soapbox though.
so, so let's continue on to next
Yes.
time. But I love that we now have some rules.
Mhm.
We have some Levitical purification laws.
Yes, we do.
And I think we have determined that Eve was not pregnant.
Eve was not pregnant. They were
Okay.
just setting out the
They were
laws.
just setting out the laws.
But it was a little confusing.
Yes, it was at first.
I'll just
And
say.
so I'm
It
glad
was
we
a little.
continued on and didn't
Yes.
just set it aside. So
Mhm.
thank you for being with us today as we have gone through these
Yes.
things and
Mhm.
listened to our crazy discussion. We want to hear your crazy discussions. So
Yes, we
comment
do.
below. Let's have a continuous discussion
Mhm.
on these. We can have a discussion on roles. We can have a discussion on Adam and Eve. We can have a discussion on what happened in the Garden of Eden. Let's have
Mhm.
a discussion. Let's keep this discussion going and hit the like button and subscribe
Yep.
so that
Right
we
down
can
there.
continue to have a discussion. And I want you to know that we're excited to be bringing the Apocrypha to you and would
Yeah.
love for you to join us. We've set the
Mhm.
link to the Jubilees in the information below on this
Mhm.
video. So pull it up and follow it as we're going along. And you can see when Myrna reads words inappropriate or not the right way or skips whole sentences. And then you know that
This is real.
it was wrong. And yes, that
We're not
uh,
perfect.
we're not perfect. But
No. Far
we're
from it.
glad to be here with you, and we're
Yes.
really glad that you're here. And please come back and see us again
Yes.
and enjoy. Bye.
Bye.